I say tomato.
And I say massa Chessy.
And I say potato.
What?
Let's call the whole thing off.
Yeah, it's that time again. It's the time for the D'Amato files. A little bit later than usual.
You thought that we had given up. You thought that
Yeah. You'd
we
hope.
had buckled under the pressure of that last 8. But
No,
no.
no. Some shit went down in the real world that needed sorted out, but that's done now. So
Mhm.
here we are. So this would be our. It's not quite the penultimate, right? Because what's the one before penultimate? Penultimate?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, there we go. Um, and there'll be one more, and then there will be our filth spectacular, right?
Right. So
Uh,
we only have one more that's actual
yes,
legitimate
yes, that'll be our
cinema.
proper one in the new, hopefully in the new year, I guess. And then after that, at some point, we'll be doing our filth spectacular, which will be exactly the same, except like in the background, there'll be like mounds of tissues.
Yeah.
Um,
That's kind of like when you've had the meal and you're just mopping up the gravy with that
there'll
bit of
be an
bread.
awful lot of gravy to mop up. Um,
hmm
but for the time being, we are still respectable citizens. And
hmm
we've got 8. How many of these are filthy? Oh, quite a few of them actually.
Yeah. Although none of them are hardcore. I don't think this time
No,
out.
no, 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 no.
Oh, they're all softcore and yeah, a couple of.
So let's
Yeah.
get to it. Yeah, yeah. What better way to kickstart a podcast all about Joe the Bat by talking about a Lucio Fulci film?
Well, yeah, exactly. So how do we get to this?
So this is
Why is Fulci on our list?
this is Door to Silence, 1991, which turned out to have been Lucio Fulci's final feature as well, right?
Yes.
Um,
Not much loved by Stephen Thrower in his
no,
book. I did just reread the review, and yeah,
yeah.
he not a big fan of this film.
Yeah, and Stephen Thrower has a way of finding almost something to like in anything, right? But uh, yeah, shot for Film Ridge down in New Orleans, right? And yeah, I don't think there's much more to it other than Fulci finished it. Joe D'Amato took a look at it apparently and thought, oh, this could do with a few more or less or something. He did something, went back,
Okay.
shot some additional scenes, and I think rescored the film, right? And we've got what we've got.
Wait, so he rescored. So all that smooth jazz that plays all over the top of the entire thing is
This is
that's
this is what I've read.
his fault. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it was his idea. How about at the end of the film, the woman turned out to be the death with personalized number plate. Spoiler, by the way. I'm not quite sure
Yes.
whose name that idea was.
Isn't
Um,
that the hitchhiker could have been by Joe? That feels the most Joe scene in the whole film, doesn't it? The hitchhiker.
Yes,
right.
yeah,
Right.
that does feel yeah, very Joe. Other than that, I mean, it doesn't jump out as a Fulci film, does it?
No. I will say that for some reason I got along much better with this than I should have, and I have no idea why. Because everyone else, every review I've read of this thing is definitely not positive. But for some reason, I was in the right mood. I was in the bathtub. Again, there might have been edibles involved, and I found this to be like just like a kind of a bath. I just kind of sat and just kind of let it wash over me. I mean, basically, it's 90 minutes of a guy driving a car, occasionally attempting to overtake a hearse and then
Well,
failing.
it's basically Carnival of Souls, isn't it? Is what it is. Someone saw
Yes.
Carnival of Souls and then said, "Oh, we'll do one of them," which a lot of people have done over the years. Oddly enough, Carnival of Souls turns out to have been much more influential a film than maybe some people would have carried. There's a whole bunch of Carnival of Souls rip-offs, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's not something I would have expected.
Yeah. Um,
Um, And it probably should be 20, 25 minutes long. Like it should be an episode of some sort of like off-brand Italian Tales of the Crypt. But it really should never have been stretched to nearly 90 minutes.
Or a
I feel.
Tales of the Unexpected. It seems like a Tales of the Unexpected story.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
And
I mean,
stars an actual movie actor, which is kind of weird as well.
John
Um,
Savage.
John Savage, yes, who
But then
apparently.
again, yeah, John Savage is one of those ones, though, right? Because he was in Deer Hunter. Everyone goes, "Oh, it's John
Mhm.
Savage." But um, I mean, John Savage was in a load of crap. Well,
Yes. Um,
it's not
but
that off-brand for him to be in. He was in loads of direct-to-video action films in the 90s, and
right.
yeah,
Yeah, he's looking pretty rough in this. He's looking kind of like, yeah.
I do feel as if he's one. Oddly enough, I think the Deer Hunter is more the outlier in his filmography.
Filmography.
Yeah,
Right. Um, Apparently he was absolutely a nightmare to work with, according to both Fulci and D'Amato. They both wanted to murder him. I'm not sure what was going on, but maybe he had a kind of a Hollywood ego.
maybe. Would
Um,
have thought. I mean, Fulci famous for getting on swimmingly with everyone, right? Uh,
but I meant Joe's probably a
Joe
fairly
seems fairly
going
chill.
fella.
Yeah, he must have been quite annoying to get on Joey's tits.
Hmm. Um,
But yeah, so yeah, John. Basically, I mean, spoiler alert, although you'd have to be a bit dense not to catch on pretty soon, right? Is John Savage
yes.
because it even the beginning of the film is him in a car crash.
Yeah, yeah. They certainly they telegraphed the big reveal
Yeah, cut
from the first
to
scene,
Has
basically.
has a sort of similar structure to Vanishing Point. That sort of begins with a car crash, and then you realise that the rest of the film just building up to that moment that you see at the beginning.
yeah, but don't expect Vanishing Point. That's a
Or Duel, which is in a weird way the other thing that this kind of thing
Mm.
feels like has a bit of a nod towards what with him endlessly trying to overtake this hearse that's obsessed with blocking his.
I was wondering as well if that cemetery they have is that the same one from Easy Rider where they trip out after Mardi Gras, right? It looks like it, but I'm
Could be, yeah.
assuming they have more than one cemetery in New Orleans. But uh, um, yeah, I mean, there's a rickety old bridge that made me think of Dukes of Hazzard as well.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um,
There's he at one point he drives onto like a battered looking old barge, like a real rusted out piece of crap that looked a lot like the one I used to have to take to and from the reserve that I lived on for the 3 years, and that gave me a certain amount of uncomfortable memories of
there's
having to drive onto a
also
barge.
a, I think my absolute favorite bit of the entire film is the blind washboard player. Because he's got like a prop, like a one you wear, you know.
Mhm.
He's there, and as far as I can tell, he's just fucking about, isn't he? He's not actually playing any rhythm that he's just going. Um, yeah, he's no Arthur Atkinson. Um, and that's about it. I like the man with the washboard, even though he doesn't seem to be able to play the washboard, which surely must be one of the easiest instruments in the world to get a handle on, I would have thought. Like
That
anyone,
and the triangle
yeah.
would be up there as well. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't hate this. I probably should have. I probably should have been squirming all the way through it, but for some reason, just watching John Savage drive a car for 90 minutes was okay for me. Not sure why.
Ends with a quote from the fourth book of the Apocalypse. What about you, Gav? What did you make of Door to Silence?
Yeah, not bad. I mean, probably not what you expect when you hear, Joe teamed up with Luke Joe Fulci to make a film. You expect a full on, gore fest, and it's more like
Mm,
a sort of very slow burn Twilight Zone type of thing. I kind of enjoyed it.
okay.
we have to be
You
the
are more
outlier.
favorable. Yeah.
Like I'd imagine that we must be very yeah, we're well outside of most people's like, probably response to this thing, but
What's the
No, I
cause
suppose it's I suppose it's not the worst thing, but it's just I don't know. It just I I think the first time I saw it years ago was when I was going around mopping up all the Fulci films that I hadn't seen yet that were readily available here on VHS, right? So I think it was within that context. I suppose if if you didn't have the weight of expecting a Fulci film or something, it's not awful, is it?
It could also be because we had just watched so many of those soap opera, like softcore porn Joe D'Amato films that this was like a pleasant break from yet another one of those.
Love is the power of love.
Exactly.
Is the power of
Saving,
love.
saving, 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 saving. And I also say that John Savage looks a bit like James Spader was trying to do a matter transporter experiment, and Jeffrey Combs got in somehow. There's something about him that kind of gives me both of their vibes. But I don't think I've ever actually, I don't remember who he is in um, the Michael Cimino film, The Deer
Yeah.
Hunter.
Well, he's one of the hunter lads.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen that since I was a teenager, so
He doesn't go to Nam, if I remember correctly.
okay.
Yeah, that's about all I remember really.
All right. But yeah, anyway, if you want to see 90 minutes of a guy driving a car who may or may not be dead, but probably is dead, as it turns out.
He is
One
dead
thing,
because there's a woman and her
yes,
personal number plate is death.
is death.
Yeah.
That is true. There's another kind of little thing that is, I'm not going to say cool, but I didn't mind it. So there's this recurring motif in the film where he's driving and he keeps getting this like light flashing in his eyes from like the sun setting, and the sun is endlessly setting. So like all 90 minutes he's driving, and the whole time the sun is kind of hovering around the same place, which is one of the things that gives it this weird oniric, dreamlike quality. Um, but then in your mind, obviously I kept going back that image at the beginning of the flames flickering in front of his windshield, and being aware that, oh, this is maybe some part of his brain attempting to tell him, oh shit, you're actually burning in a car. You're not really driving on this road.
Well, that's the odd thing, isn't it? It's all, even though it's blindingly obvious, it is kind of relatively subtle, and then all of a sudden someone has a
A
personal,
personalized license plate that says death.
yeah, it's like it's almost fantastically silly and stupid, isn't it, when you
Mhm.
see that personalized number plate? Because that woman, throughout, you're like, so who's she? You see all the other characters, like, oh, okay, he's the funeral director, and she's the chick who works in the funeral parlor, and you never quite, well, who's she then? Who's she in the story? Like, was she in the other car or something? And then it turns out, no, she is literally the Grim Reaper driving around in a car with death as a number plate. That is quite, quite silly. I'm guessing that's a D'Amato edition, possibly as well.
Right, right. Um, I would say, nope, I've lost what I was going to say. I was going to say something, but it's gone. Um,
Probably for the
so,
best, Nick.
oh no, I will. I'll say this. I'll say this. Actually, that the acting in this is not absolutely deplorable, because a lot of what we're about to talk about now reaches levels that I've almost never seen before of like just the most flat tone deaf line readings that yeah, like just some truly astonishing, like particularly when we get to Frankenstein 2000.
Well, that's
Some
where we're going next.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, in that way, this film is a cut above in that it does feel like the acting is like you're not scratching your head and wondering if everyone has suffered a serious brain injury.
Well, at least
Uh,
one of the cast members has, right? But he,
well, I have a theory about this. I guess if we're moving on to
yes, please
okay.
do. Yes, here we go. It's Return from Death, brackets, Frankenstein 2000, those brackets, from 92. Um, Joe D'Amato and his David Hill's pseudonym, which he used for the Actor,
Hmm.
right? And yes, so this is a very strange film indeed, which I the first
First
time
of all,
uh,
most of the film is just kind of like
Nick doing his very finest Donald O'Brien there.
yes, yeah. That is a lot of what this film is.
But I remember seeing this film for the first time, and I was looking at my review, and I didn't do it justice because it's terrible. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I kind of dismissed it. I wasn't quite able, and I don't know if I would be able to do it now to write it down. I have to speak about it. Just how just surreally awful this film. Like
Hmm.
it's, I was I had the flu watching this, and I don't think that helped because my brain was already in a very monged state, and then this film is just monged from beginning to end, right? Like there's something wrong. This film's missing chromosomes, I think. There's something really wrong with this film.
Yes, yes, I think you're correct.
Oh.
I mean, can we do a synopsis, roughly
You
speaking,
could
of what?
you give it a go because I'm not sure if it's oh you're doing your Donal again.
Yeah, yeah, but honestly now, because I don't actually remember, other than that it's kind of vaguely a Frankenstein-esque um
You
thing
take
where
I'm doing my Donal in there. You
there's like
free Gav if you want to do a Donal at any point.
Yeah,
there's a there's like what there's a there's there's a bunch of mean rich kids right in town who kind of harass the locals and but yeah,
But
really
we're
honest.
going to talk about the location as well, right? Because it's like a town in Austria, I think, isn't it? Is where it's shot.
Yeah, it definitely has
Yeah.
a
Which is weird because when it starts, I was thinking either this is somewhere there, or I thought, accounting for the weird accent, I was thinking, might it be one of those like early settlements in like, Pennsylvania or something like Germantown or something.
right.
Because it does, because it's clearly supposed to be the United States, except all the signs and everything are in German and the
German, yes.
newspapers and everything, right? It's
Mhm.
very weird that they deliberately, no, this must be the US. It's got to be the US, right? But yeah, it's a town in Austria, which I think must be also where they shot um, Love Project and Instinct as well, I think.
I think so too. Yeah, I think they were all filmed around the same time in the same,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah, I honestly can't remember. All I remember is that Donal somehow gets turned into a Frankenstein type of
Well,
monster.
so the strange thing is, from the beginning, who is Donald? Is he like, he seems to be like a cross between the village idiot and
Hmm.
like a handyman. And there's talk that he's also used to be a boxer, right? So he might be punch drunk or something. But as far as I can tell, he just hangs out with this family, particularly Cinzia Monreal, right? Who's like runs a video shop, I think,
Yeah.
a video house, which is a typical
Yeah.
American video
Mhm.
chain name. And it just seems to, I don't know if he's a pest or helpful, but he just seems to be always like lurking about.
Mhm.
And yeah, the local rich kids in cahoots with the corrupt constabulary,
Mhm.
kind of conspire to frame him after his uh, uh, employer or just woman he pesters.
Mhm.
Um, she gets gang raped, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it was
And then,
just
and
a
then
practical joke, say the police, at some point.
yes. And then yeah, yeah. And then he rescues her, but in the process he gets beaten up and
Well, it's funny.
ser
It's funny as well. I like how much they hate Donald Bryan in this film, right? Because there's a bit like, yeah, he's been knocked out in front of the house while the crime is occurring inside, and the corrupt policeman, upon entering the house, and Donald Bryan's just laid out on the floor. Just gratuitous, just says "fuck off" to the Donald Bryan. Like, oh. It's really don't like him
A
at
little
all
hard.
for some reason. Um, yes, but it turns out then that there's so many. It's really difficult. So my favorite, I think, in terms of what the fuck, the logic of this film.
Hmm.
So you we've all seen in a film a million times where someone has like a dream that foreshadows something, and then the thing appears to be happening in real life.
Hmm.
But there's one in here which just takes the fucking biscuit. It's brilliant, right? There's like the main chick who keeps imagining her little boy being decapitated. She keeps,
Oh, yes.
but she has this dream where there's a long-haired dude with an axe
Yep.
chasing her little boy through the woods, like, "Ah!"
Hmm.
And then eventually cuts his head off, and she wakes up screaming or whatever. Okay, fair enough. And then not 5 minutes later, they're out in the woods or something having a picnic, and oh no, it's imitating her dream, and the same long-haired man who we've never been introduced to before, have no context who is this man, is chasing her little boy through the woods, but now he's carrying the bumper of a car that's fallen off for some reason.
Yes.
Chasing this little kid through the woods with a fucking fender. And then a football landing in a cake kind of simulates a decap. It's just balmy as anything.
Hmm.
It's like,
She has
it's
all,
really
she has
weird.
all these premonition sort of flash forwards to that, but then she has no premonition of, being gang raped or him being
No,
beaten outside. No, no, no warning about that. Just warning about a football being kicked in a cave.
it's really strange, but it's difficult to. And then yeah, so it turns into Patrick then basically, right?
Yes, yeah, or Patrick Viva Ancora. Patrick lives again,
Yes,
again.
yes.
Um,
And Donald
yeah.
O'Brien ends up dead and erased from the dead by her
Well,
telekinetic.
luckily there's a reanimation ward in the local hospital, which is not something you
Right.
see every day. Is a sign on a door in the local hospital that says reanimation ward on it.
But his revenge is just like, I mean, a lot of it seems to be lugging a telegraph pole around.
Yes. Yes.
Endless scenes of him carrying a telegraph pole around, which is yeah, also very
He
strange.
does crush somebody's head, and there's a few
That's
actually
quite
kind
good.
of like
Yeah.
decent little gore scenes in there that are fun. There's like a
Possibly the
Nazi.
most ludicrous one is someone decapitated by a car door, like
Yes, yes, quite near the
very
end.
easily.
Just like
Just
bang, the head flies off.
half his torso comes sliding off.
Um, there's a Nazi dance party, which was unexpected as well, right?
Yes,
Where
that's the
there's a girl
local
dressed as a giant alarm clock who's
yes,
dancing around at the Nazi dance
yes,
party.
yes. And this is yeah. So and you did mention it, but we should reiterate as well. This whole thing has this extra added layer of people talking like this sometimes. Maybe
Yep.
I did.
Hmm.
Huh.
Yes.
That's interesting. Like
Oh yeah.
could never
I had to
quite
write
get
down.
the rhythm
I
of
had to. Yeah, I know it's hard to actually do because it's so alien. It's almost as though everyone's brains were taken over by alien parasites who are trying to figure out at the same time how language works and then how the mechanics of making words with a human mouth works. Like this, it's all a question of formation. It's getting late. I'll just go on with my work. Like this,
yeah.
it's just
But there's a little pause and there's always an extra unexpected. So yeah, it'll be like, yes, I'm almost finished with my work today. There's a lot of that.
Yeah. And then there's a doctor who shows up who sounds like, what if like Werner
Oh,
Herzog
he's awesome. This is Maurice
ate
Paul.
an entire bottle of Quaaludes before showing up to set? Like,
Maurice Paul is great. Yeah, he's got like a really thick, like weird German accent or something, doesn't he?
oh yeah, yeah. As I said, he's it's like Werner Herzog, but very, very stoned. Um,
This film does make you feel stoned. I think it's one of those. It's in that category of films that you don't need to imbibe. Uh,
No, no, it will. It's a mind-altering substance.
yeah, like I said, don't watch
Yeah.
it with the flu or anything like that.
So did this ever get a UK release? Because I remember seeing like articles about it. I think in maybe Shivers magazine, but and I remember like making a mental note of it, but I don't think it ever sort of turned up on in the UK ever.
I don't know. I remember it because it turned up in like there must have been an article about Joe D'Amato in like Dark Side magazine or something like that. I think that's where I remembered reading about it. And then I remember um Trevor Barley's media publications had it for sale, but I'm assuming that was some European release of it or something. And then yeah, I saw it after I moved here. They had the VHS. Was it? No, actually, no. There's actually it wasn't a domestic Japanese release either. I think I rented. That's right. I went to a specialist shop and I must have rented whatever that version Trevor Barley was. Because yeah, I think it might only have been released in a few places, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I've ever seen it in full until now. Really, I think maybe I've tried to watch it before and sort of gave up on it. But yeah, mm,
And was it worth it this time?
I don't know. But maybe out of affection for Donald O'Brien. I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, it's not great. Is it?
No, who had apparently, yes, recently suffered a stroke, right, in real life, which was apparently something to do with the casting decision.
Well, was it a stroke? I mean, he'd slipped apparently, like in the bath, or and had like a serious brain. So maybe it was related. Maybe there was a stroke involved as well. But apparently, he'd had a really bad blow to the head.
Mm.
Um,
And
I'm
driven by
convinced,
30-year-old dark side gossip. So,
right? Um, but I'm thinking like that had to have been like there almost has to be an element of intentionality about how bad everyone else is in the film. Like maybe they were worried that Joe was feeling self-conscious about his own, recent head trauma. And so they were like, don't even worry about it. Everyone else we've cast talks with no inflection, takes lengthy pauses between words. And in fact, the other lead will be in a coma for the whole back half of the film. Um,
they were all
like,
just being nice and accommodating for Donald.
yeah, like making sure that he felt, scaffolded and supported and nurtured in, what must have been a frightening time in his life. That's my belief anyway. Because otherwise, they have gathered together the worst collection of actors, or even weirder, dubbing actors, right? Um,
Was it his last film then?
Must be
don't
close
know.
to one of his last, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It certainly is Joe's last horror film, which is not exactly the
No, I mean
best.
Donald O'Brien now, but
Right.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was one of his last.
surely it could have been
Yeah.
much employment after this. Such a bad way. I mean, yeah, it's sad to see him sort of deteriorate. Watching all these films in close proximity, you sort of see him, deteriorate as the films go on.
Yeah, I suppose it could have
Yeah.
been worse. I suppose he could have been revived by a telekinetic woman to star in a few more films.
Oh, it's also worth mentioning that that coma girl has an actual husband, right? Who's barely in the film for most of the running time, right? So it kind of
Hmm.
makes it even weirder that Donald's weirdo handyman is kind of hanging around the house with her and the child since she actually has a husband. And he shows up only at the end to basically murder his own wife.
It's an odd one.
Like that is the end of the film. Like he shows up, and then we're supposed to think he's the hero for coming up and killing his coma wife, and then in the process, I guess, cutting the strings to poor puppet Donal.
But it's obviously Patrick was obviously much a bigger hit
Well,
in
in
Italy.
Italy, as we
Yeah.
know, yeah, it got an official or whatever, a semi-official sequel in Italy, right? Patrick Lives Again with score by Goblin. Um, but yeah. Anyway, I quite like this, and I think I liked it because again, it's not a soap opera, softcore porn with a lot of 80s
Love,
gray in
love,
it.
love. There's the power of love.
True love.
It doesn't have that song in it,
Yeah,
which is always,
but
yes,
it's got a lot of this.
yes. Um, so anyway, I guess we should probably move on uh, to stop it, Nick.
I just think, do you think Terry Gilliam stole Donald's jib?
The country chair. So we move on to maybe the most redundant, I suppose, of all our films this time, Il Vizio Infinito, um, which is,
Is this, is this the one that's just made up of clips of
yeah,
films we've just watched? Yeah,
yeah.
Jesus
And it
wept.
seems to be in two parts, right?
Yep.
Part voyeurismo and part
Hmm.
masturbation.
Yes, yes.
Um, and yeah, we get clips from, I mean, I was looking at the end credit.
Well, I do like
Some
the
of the
fact that this
films
is
I'm
the
shocked
only
they're
movie,
in there.
this only movie I've ever seen that has footnotes explaining where the bits of it have come from. Like that, like each part when it ends, suddenly it just it's like these are the films that this was made from, right?
Right.
He quotes his own sources.
But I'm sure some of them aren't, like, at least in the first bit. Was there a clip from Emmanuel and the Last Cannibals? Because I missed it.
Yeah.
But it's listed at the end.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about that, but certainly it's crazy. Like it made me wonder because we watched this unsubtitled and undubbed, right?
Hmm.
Was there any attempt to create a narrative that would have explained
But
who
there's
these characters are and how they're related to each other, or was it
both of them
presented
start with an intro, right? There's like a female narrator talking about either voyeurismo or masturbation for a
Mhm.
little while. There seems to be some sort of attempt at setting up something vaguely educational, or I don't know. But then the narration stops after a while, right? And it's
Mhm.
just long, boring clips from boring films that we already. Well, I
Mhm.
don't suspect it plays any better if you haven't already watched all the films. But yeah, I mean, you get
Yeah.
to hear your favorite song, "Save and Save and Saving,"
Oh, thank God for that.
and "The Power of Love" comes up, and yeah, that's a bit. And some of it's a bit slow motion now and again. It goes into
Hmm.
slow mo. Um,
I did get to see that scene of that one guy banging the girl in the warehouse full of giant float heads again, which,
oh yes,
that
and
was
that's
epic, I
Morris
guess.
Polly again.
Hmm. And then we even got bits of Caligula. Like again, there
Yes,
was no attempt made to make me feel like this was set in any given time period because a lot of it is the 80s kind of soap opera stuff, but
mostly,
then
yeah.
there are
So
70s chunks.
do all the clips? Do they all fit neatly into either voyeurism or masturbation? And then I don't think so.
Probably not. No.
But it was clearly set up. They right, we're going to do this two-part best of. I'm assuming to send people scurrying off to find the originals.
Hmm.
Um, I'm
I
not.
assume at some point he must have like owned his own films then to put these clips together. I suppose that's vaguely interesting then if you
Yeah.
owned all these films at one time. Yeah.
Well, they're all. I'm assuming they're probably all Filmarage titles as well, right? Which was his
Yeah, mostly.
production company, right? Or at least he had a hand. He was a partner in
Yeah,
Filmarage.
it sort of favours that sort of period rather than the sort of Black
Yeah,
Emmanuel period stuff. But there is
and
some
it
stuff.
and it's clearly of its video era as well, isn't it? It's like maybe around this time, maybe some of those older titles had come out on video for the first time or something, and this was a way to introduce, hey guys, you think my new films are good? Wait until you see some of the classics I have made previous. I don't know why he talks like that, but he does. Um,
Sure.
uh,
Um,
Well, I'm just struggling. There's nothing to say about it, really.
No, I know. I mean, I think my review of this was just Joe D'Amato throws more than a dozen of his movies in a blender, regardless of time period, country location, or even screen aspect ratio. Is this supposed to make sense? Question mark. I think that's what jars me most is when the film switches from like different like levels of widescreening to kind of more pan and scanny back to like that's a real I don't give a shit approach as far as I'm concerned. Where like it just really felt like if it felt like Joe just doesn't care at this point.
I
Like
was
really,
surprised when
really
Caligula
doesn't
came,
care.
because that did seem very much out of left field. And oh well, I mean, it's out there. It exists. You can also watch it if you so desire. Um, we'll move on then.
Yeah, I think so. There's like not much to say about that.
No, I mean, we're getting into some pretty murky waters here as well, because we don't have subtitles for the next couple,
Right.
or maybe even next three. Tenera Storia, or Love Project,
Right. God.
from 1993. This is the one. Oh, this is the one starring Annie Papa from A Blade in the Dark fame, I guess, as a female doctor having sex with her handsome co-worker, and then she starts fucking a student. And I think that's about it, plot-wise, right? As far as I can make out. Except at some point there's a chicken race, and someone drives into a wall full speed.
Oh yes.
That came
Oh
out of
yeah.
nowhere a little bit. So, excuse me. Yeah, no, I mean, a bit unfair to review it, really, seeing as we don't know what. But I don't think we missed anything important. Laura Gemser's in her last film as a receptionist.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sad way for her to go out again. A lot of sad farewells in these last couple of
I know she's
films.
busy making costumes.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
Um,
carries on doing the costumes. Thoughts?
Gav, you go ahead.
No, nothing, nothing. I've got nothing. Just another one in it.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, at least usually with these things you can figure out what they were copying, but I'm not sure what they were copying here. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like a Fatal Attraction
yeah,
or a Basic Instinct, or it was a
no,
kind of relatively mild story.
yeah. My notes, I can read my notes if you're interested. That's not going to be any more interesting than the film, but some bullshit sex melodrama in hospital. If Joe's not trying anymore,
Put
then
it on the
neither.
poster.
Hmm. Um,
That bullshit melodrama poster. Ick. Dermatophiles.
One kid has my exact 1993 haircut. This is most upsetting. How old is this kid supposed to be anyway? Is he 16? This has Rushmore vibes. If that Jason Schwartzman guy actually banged the MILF. Uh, yep, these scenes of the kid in his floppy sweater and acid wash jeans are conjuring uncomfortable memories, even more when his teen girlfriend appears in his oh so 90s bedroom. Also, this kid is getting more pussy than a toilet seat. Fuck, I wish this boring hospital had its own reanimation ward. Is this a porn version of Doogie Howser? Wow, for reasons unknown, Doogie and his old pal, now enemy, Beardo, have just run their cars full tilt into a concrete wall.
If Donald O'Brien turned up in it, it could be Doogie Howser medical deviate.
There we go. I wish that film existed. And then ends with Doogie reuniting with age-appropriate teen girl and MILF getting together with General Hospital soap star dude.
Yeah, that's about the size of it. Well done, Nick. You managed to articulate something there.
Mm-hmm.
So if that sounds like your cup of tea,
Something is very wrong with you.
yes, run, do not walk to your local video store and get yourself a copy of Love Project or Tenera Storia. Um, or don't.
Yeah.
That's the other option. Mind you,
Yes.
having said, if you thought we have little to say about Love Project,
Hmm.
I mean, that's a fucking essay compared to, well, personally, what I have to say about the next one, Instinct,
Ah.
Sulfido del Rasoio,
Hmm.
because I had to look up the IMDb um, plot synopsis to even actually understand what was happening here.
Yes, I also had to find. I found a plot synopsis somewhere else, I think, that had.
Yeah. So someone
Yeah.
was murdered at some point in this house, right next to a lake, and then
Hmm.
a sister turns up to live in the lake. And not live in the lake, that would be wet and miserable. Live in the house. Um, and then there's some kind of prime suspects as to who might be the murderer, right? Is that about right? And
That
then
seemed
um,
like it.
and then some shit happens. Starts with the old classic, the chucking the radio in the bath gambit.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, it's that same fucking Austrian town again,
Yep.
which was also in Love Project.
Hmm.
Um, so that little town must be awfully proud of its
Mm.
cinematic legacy.
Yeah, yeah, it's contribution to world culture.
Do you think
I wonder if
anyone
this
who
one
goes
might
to
be
that
shot late in
town?
the year, though. I wonder if this one might be shot late in the year. It feels a lot more snowbound than Frankenstein 2000 and the other one.
Yeah, yeah, I guess.
Something to say anything interesting.
Well done, Gav. Nice try.
More snow in this one, yeah.
You do wonder if you yeah, if you're vacationing around Europe and you rock up in this little town, if like the inhabitants insist, like everywhere you go, there's like three VHS tips. Like every restaurant you go in, every shop, they're really proud of the three tomato films. And you keep having them foisted upon you. Oh yeah, there was a movie made three actually. Yeah,
Mm.
you can buy all
That,
three. They're really-
a statue to Donald O'Brien.
Yes. Um,
Carla
yeah.
Orlova is the star. Morris Polly's in it again.
Hmm. There's a, I mean, I guess the big twist ending is the guy who we think is maybe the evil murdering gigolo turns out actually to be a total bro who runs up at the very end and saves her from the actual murderer. That's about as much as I got from this. The poster looks like it was very much modeled on the Basic Instinct. I'm assuming the Instinct title comes from the fact that they were attempting to make that connection.
Yeah, that's the only innovation I could think of here, was someone had the smart idea, rather than add a word or change
Yeah.
a word, we'll just take one away.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, it's like attraction. You could also make, right?
It's funny that nobody ever like because with all of the Jaws ripoffs that nobody ever made just John.
But J,
Yeah,
yeah,
Um,
here all week, Nick, uh,
yeah.
and his stand-up routine there. If you're
Mhm.
interested,
Um,
tip your waitress.
I do like this though. This is somebody's maybe this is from my somebody was like and this can't be right. This last part can't be right at all. It says a fascinating woman with a dark past, a mysterious villa, an eerie lake, and a handsome, unscrupulous young man are the main ingredients of a plot that only a true erotic expert like Joe D'Amato could imagine. Entirely located in Louisiana, this film is inspired by a true story. I highly doubt those last two claims. Um,
Unless it's Louisiana, Austria.
Austria,
Yeah.
yes. Um,
Um, yeah, someone's getting their tomatoes mixed up.
I think so.
Which is
Double
understandable.
body
I mean, if someone asked me, like, I've just seen this and I've written it down and it's in front of me, not that I have much to say about it, but yeah, if someone were to ask me in a month to recall Instinct and which one was that, which one was Love Project, which one
Hmm.
was 11 Days, 11 Nights Part 3, I
Yes.
don't think I am going to be remembering. Uh,
Yeah. Okay. What's next? We got a few more minutes on this session.
Yes, well,
Uh,
we've got an entire country and sex. So there's a lot. Yeah,
all
this
right. All right.
China and sex.
And then sex, okay.
And fortunately for our last two films, we've got the English dub returns.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of two D'Amato films directed as by Robert Yip, right?
Yes.
Um,
Oh, is this the one that also has John Woo credited as assistant
yeah, there's a
something?
few fake, yeah, but then in the next film he's changed to John Wood.
I noticed that. Yeah. I also noticed that Lao Tzu was Key Grip.
Yeah, there's a
So
few,
that's a surprise.
there's a few fake names thrown in.
Hmm.
Yeah, so no, so this is one of two films that seem to have been shot in the Philippines, right? Standing in for well, China, all of it, and
Yeah.
Canton in the next one.
Hmm.
But yeah, so this one, this is about
This almost feels like a real movie. Because I finished watching this today and I was like, you know what? Of all of this last bunch
yes,
of models, this one actually feels like he
China
gave it
and
to
set is not bad. It's slow, is what it is. It's
Mhm.
very slow, but
Well, that's because the first 30 minutes is the same scene over and over again of a rich guy showing up to the brothel and being like,
oh shit,
uh,
one we skipped one.
oh, what did we skip?
Tales of Red Chamber.
Okay, so
So
that's okay.
There's three
Okay.
Robert Yip films, right?
Which is confusing because China and Sex also includes the Red Chamber
Yes,
in it
the
as a
Red
plot
Room.
point.
And,
Um,
and Tales of Red Chamber was when we did watch without subtitles. I Racconti della Camera Rossa, right? Yeah, also shot. I'm assuming that was shot in the Philippines as well.
yes, this is like I Racconti della Camera Rossa,
Yeah,
which I'm sure is the most supposed to like because a lot of those earlier Joe D'Amato like Decamerotica ripoffs were always I Racconti, like tales of. So I'm
yeah.
assuming this is his Asian version, right?
Well, I'm guessing Sex and Zen was probably the impetus for these films, right? That
Right, the category three thing was
yeah,
happening.
yeah. Um, Tales of the Red Chamber, just as kind of gloss over before we get back to China Sex, looks like it might be kind of fun if it had
Yes,
English dub.
I think it might be too.
It's got some good chastity belt comedy.
Yeah. There's a yes, there's the carrot test, right? Which is administered at one point. So I seem to remember that this thing cuts your dick off, right? This chastity
Yes,
belt.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, and then there's the gag about the guy at the end whose dick is still intact, but then it turns out he's lost his tongue.
Wow, wow, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks
Yes.
like it would be serviceable enough hook, but it's just difficult to get absorbed when you don't understand what's being said, right? But I don't know
Yeah.
why this
And
would.
a guy dies from an exceptionally good hand job, which is
Right.
something you don't often see in a film. Um,
It just I was curious as to why. I mean, we couldn't find it. Maybe it was about at some point, but I was curious to why this one wouldn't have got an English dub because it seems like something they could have sold around the world pretty easily, right? But
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think I've ever come across this in English.
It almost has the vibe of um, a British sex comedy in a way. There's something kind of like just a bit jaunty and a bit like that last segment of the film where there's the effeminate tailor who keeps getting sodomized by the angry husband until it seems like maybe he doth protest too much.
It's not quite seedy and depressing enough and make you want to kill yourself to be a British sex comedy. I think.
Right, and somebody that you don't expect like John Pertwee doesn't show up halfway through for 5 minutes. Um, but no, I didn't. Fun enough, I didn't mind this, and I feel like you're right.
Yeah, I
Paradise.
reckon Tales of the Red Chamber. I would watch it again if there was a dub.
Yeah,
or even subtitled. But I just surprised. It just seems like such a shoe-in to have gone to the same market that China and Sex and House of Pleasure would have gone to, right?
Mhm.
But anyway, that's it. So yeah, so China and Sex then, um, which we did have a dub for. Um, and this one begins with a brothel getting a visit from a local mandarin. And
Not an orange, just in case you're concerned.
no, it's not that chick dressed as a clock from that film. Now she's a big orange. Uh,
Right. Um, yeah, and basically he thinks he can throw his money around and have any woman he wants. He falls for this dancing prostitute, and and that's the thing that made me laugh is that the movie just he keeps returning and doing exactly the same thing, expecting a different result each time he shows up. He brings more money. He's like, this time you'll have sex with me. She's like, no, I'm not. I'm not interested in money. You're not getting this. And he's like, all right. I'll get more money then. And he leaves and goes, "Ah, that's the first 30 minutes of the film, which may
well, he
explain."
even taxes the brothel, doesn't he? Like mercilessly to try and get them to convince her to sleep
Mhm.
with him. This is the extremely oriental Mark Gonzalez.
Mhm.
Um, Laura Luna plays the she's a dancer as well, isn't she? That's
Mhm. Yes.
and she seems to bewitch men. And he ends up meeting another man who went
All
through.
the way.
Yeah, he went to
The Red Chamber.
the Red Chamber and had a great meal of love, is,
Hmm.
is the exact quote. And he's
But
like,
he's been left somewhat demented as a
he's a
result.
gibbering loon.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, she does at one point call her pussy the Swamp of Oblivion, which that's cool. That was a nice piece of dialogue. So yes.
and yeah, so basically he has to go through all these trials for her to allow him to be her lover. And
Mhm.
I'll have to admit, I didn't expect it to go there. That's
Yes,
worth,
yeah.
Goes dark, doesn't he?
yeah, that's worth keeping spoiler free, I think, because that was woo.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's just say his blue balls don't really get the treatment he was hoping.
To be fair, he takes it in his stride as
He
well. I
does.
mean,
He does.
um, and I think that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is an interesting. It's yeah, like I said, it's so slow. It's so slow. Like it's a really
Mhm.
slow burn. But if you can
You can
brace
get on its wavelengths.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's nicely shot. It's nicely framed. Like it just seemed like there's a little more care and a little more attention
yes.
given to this than a lot of the stuff that he's churning out at this time.
And the very, very ending, the final kind of twist thing is conceptually cool, but
Hmm.
not to throw shade, but it's not convincing.
No.
That's
Um,
it's about as convincing as when Les Dawson used to dress up as his mother,
yes.
play the piano.
Although I've never seen Les Dawson's mother, so it's hard to say.
What do you make of China and sex then, Gav?
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? It does go very dark towards the end, sort of elements of like the crying game in the realm of the senses to not
Hmm.
give too much away. Yeah, but definitely a bit more artistry and professionalism than the assembly line stuff we've seen. Probably a lot more darker than like the things that were aimed for America. I can't imagine like 11 days, 11 nights sort of film would get that dark towards the end.
Hmm.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if again, did this get an UK? Really? Because it's around that time again, it would have been a media
Would
publication,
imagine
you
so.
think? So yeah, no, I wouldn't have thought it would be welcome. Um,
It is interesting too because it's dubbed into Italian with English subtitles, but all of the leads are from it's the Philippines, right? It's where this is
I
shot.
think so, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously the Philippines must have had a fairly lax attitude towards full frontal nudity and stuff, given the amount of muff that appears in this film.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would have got a release.
Okay.
Um, I'm not sure. I know that the Philippines does have they have made quite a lot of erotic films over the years, but thinking about it, I can't recall to mind if it's how explicit it is or if it's I'm not sure. Um, Erotic Filipino cinema is not really my area of expertise, to be honest with you. Hmm. Um, no,
But
it's
not, I would say this
definitely
is
one of the high watermarks of this.
of those eight.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but again, we've been so starved of anything halfway decent. We don't really have that much to say about it, really. But I mean, I
Yes.
didn't particularly find it. But again, this is subjective. I didn't find it particularly sexy myself, but you can see
No.
that it does have a kind of steamy atmosphere that I can imagine if you're into Laura Luna, then maybe, it
Mhm.
works in that department for you.
Yeah. Well, I certainly feel like if I had been 15 and it was on television, after 11 o'clock at night, I would have spent some time with it, in
Red
my
Triangle
parents' living
time.
room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, given that I have a much wider array of choice now in this regard, I can't imagine myself. If I wasn't doing this show, and I don't imagine I will ever revisit this. I can't imagine a situation where I will
No, no. But
watch it
again,
again.
yeah, in context, if it was prior to this, if the only thing you'd seen would be, no sex, please, we're British or something like that, then yeah, it would have blown your little cotton socks off.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. So we move. Well, actually, we don't move anywhere. We stay in the Philippines
Philippines, yeah.
for the House of Pleasure from
Mhm.
1994, aka 11 Days, 11 Nights, 7. But we haven't seen 6 of them, have we yet?
I
Possibly.
feel like we haven't, but
I feel as if we have, but I don't think we actually.
yes.
We've missed. I think is it maybe Labyrinth of Love or something, which is in the next batch, might have been retroactively numbered earlier, or I'm pretty sure we haven't watched 6 11 Days, 11 Nights, have we?
I don't
Feels
think
like we
so.
have.
But are they? I mean, I have other things being titled that, that maybe aren't even made by Joe D'Amato.
Possibly.
Right.
Um, yeah, I'm not quite sure. But Mark Gonzalez returns.
He does. He
Uh,
does. As does the great Nick Nicholson,
Nick
uh,
Nicholson.
star of such films as Platoon, Robo Warriors, and a bunch of other stuff that's shot in the Philippines that he is in. Um, there's actually quite a good interview with him on that I think it's Nanarland. That
Oh yeah,
website also has a lot of really good interviews with yeah,
Harrison and people. Yeah.
yeah. He talks a lot about the number of pedophiles in like foreign pedophiles in the
Oh,
Filipino film industry. Names names.
delightful.
Yeah, he names names, which is quite it's a good
Oh,
it's a
really?
good interview.
Oh, I'm definitely reading that as soon as we're done here. That sounds Nick Nicholson, La La Land. Okay, interesting.
Um,
Um,
But yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, he normally didn't get to. He talks about this film actually quite a bit because he doesn't get a lot of leading roles, I don't think, or didn't get even in the Philippines. I don't think he was often the star of films. I think Um,
No, to be honest, I didn't recognize him. I can't say I was like, oh yes, Nick Nicholson, great. But he
right.
equips himself. I mean, he's clearly punching above his weight, married to Arena Kramer.
Yep. No question.
Quite the looker. Definitely this film's calling card, right? I think is her.
Yeah, no question.
Um,
Sorry, he was in a Japanese movie, Kyokuto Kuroshakai, directed. Anyway,
Nick Nicholson.
yeah, made in 1993. maybe filmed in the Philippines, possibly, right?
Right. Yeah. So he seems to have been a lot of his, because I noticed there was some martial arts film on his filmography as well. It seems to be shot in the Philippines. So yeah, he was one of that. But it's odd. He's one of those. But for some reason, I've never thought of it. Like, there's people like Jim Gaines and people like that, right, who come up again and again in Filipino films. I don't recall coming across Nick Nicholson because
He's an 81. He's in 81 films.
Yeah,
He's in 81 films.
Platoon is shot in the Philippines, right? So that makes sense why he's in that.
Right.
But I for some reason I've never registered the name before.
Yeah, I was surprised to see how many films he'd been in. Obviously, all confined to the Philippines.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the classic. Yeah, it's in the John Ashley vein, I guess. Right, at some point he went over there and just stayed and played white guys in Filipino films. Whoever was coming through town, including Joe D'Amato. Yeah, so in this film, he's a lord. Actually, he's a Lord Gregory. Just got married to Irina Kramer, and for their honeymoon, they're in Canton, which looks a hell of a lot like Manila to me. But anyway, he's there visiting a Chinese businessman, once again, the fantastically oriental Mark Gonzalez.
Where's Mark actually from? Do we know?
I think he's Filipino, isn't he?
Okay, right.
Yeah. So yeah, and so then it's a rerun of one of the other 11 Days, 11 Nights, or Christina, one of the earlier films where a husband enjoyed seeing his wife being shagged by other men, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, whichever the one that had the mirror that was one way or two way or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so they've basically it's that story again with Nick Nicholson enjoying watching people fuck Irina Kramer from on a not very hidden camera, right? I think, and it's is it a brothel? But it's also like it's a front to be an appelier or something like that. So she goes there. The excuse is, oh, I'm come to buy some kimonos. And then,
silkworm sort of thing going on as well.
Yes, that's right. He runs a silkworm, and he promises several times to show us around his silkworm farm, and we never get to see it. I was really disappointed. I was like, oh, I'd quite like to see a silkworm farm.
You want to check out those mulberry bushes.
Yeah. But although we do have a very, very, very long driving around Manila scene. This goes on and on and on, Ariston, and on and on. But
maybe the same dubbers also might have done Frankenstein 2000 as well, because there's a lot of that speak and spell that's running out of batteries.
I think they might have dubbed this film at the same time as the other one that they dubbed today.
Yes, I suspect so. So that adds to the weirdness of it all.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's an odd one, this, because it's like, again, we've just been battered over the head for so long now, and it just someone stopping is merciful. But this is like, I don't know, it's like fine. I mean, there's a good looking lead. She takes her clothes off a lot, looks kind of sexy and vulnerable. And the story trundles along. There's no surprises because the reveal that the husband is watching and all that is pretty early on, right?
Yeah.
But and then it just trundles along to the end.
I guess the reveal is that she's into it too, right? Which I think may have been the same story.
Yeah, the big reveal is she's a filthy slut, and they've got a new play thing to replace Mark Gonsalves at
Yeah,
a
the
pilot or something.
the
Yeah,
Dutch sailor in his
that's it. It's sailor.
you
Yeah,
know,
there we
Kind
go.
of
yes.
feels like they're trying to like set up a sort of series where they go to like different places in each one and sort of take a younger lover and sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. It's very Emmanuelish, or
Mhm.
yeah. There seems to have definitely been a market for wealthy people being kinky around the world, right? Stretching from Emmanuel right through. I mean, it's still 20 years later they were still making
Mhm.
these kind of things, right? And this is, I don't know. I mean, if that's your thing, like yeah, it's fine. It's again, I suppose if you're trying to be thinking about it subjectively, I suppose if Irina Kramer wasn't your type, then I suppose the film would just be a
No.
total bore, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, like if it was starring Les Dawson's mum, I might have not enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Although now, having said that, does
Mm,
yeah,
yes.
the House of Blankety Blank.
I mean, it does beg the question of what does our old friend Ferdman think about this? So perhaps we should ask him. Ferdman, what do you think about this? The La Casa del Piacere, how will you say it?
Oh, hang on, is this the genius from before? Oh, I'm looking for. Hang on, let me get comfy. I like this, guys. Yeah, right.
Excellent compared to mainstream propaganda. I only have two favorite producers, Jess Franco and Joe D'Amato, and internet helped me do my homework. Before I used to adore Tinto Brass, till I realized he is into mainstream nonsense. As I mentioned somewhere, D'Amato had rare sense to find the right actor for right positioning. In this case, Irina Kramer. Of course, the ideas shown in movie are not new, but considering it's what goes on behind curtains, we may start call things as they are not what politically correct.
What?
That last sentence, what the fuck does that even mean? But anyway,
Sure. Um,
thanks, man.
yes, yeah, another. I mean, he should get published, really.
Yeah, maybe he was responsible for dubbing the film.
he might, he might be, he might be.
Is there a
In fact,
long blank at the end of this, and then what is it today?
so I do have to. There are a few we've missed along the way, and I would like to maybe just read from the annals of a Ferdman once or twice more, if you
I
will indulge me.
I think it's a podcast series in the making.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're going to go right back to 1980, back to Sesso Nero, which you may remember we talked about what feels like many, many months ago. Um, this one I particularly like. D'Amato mentality is sure different from mainstream crowd moviegoers, but is it good or bad? Is it art or porno? Is it possible to define? It all depends on who you ask, right? So why I watch this B movie from past but not
Right.
something mainstream? Yes, why? Why I don't mention anything like Citizen Kane, which supposedly timeless jewel? Simple. Because the motto reflect on my life and my experience. Yes, somehow I feel connected. Any movie is a propaganda, and propaganda have to be convincing, real, and imaginative. Do I actually care what's the movie about? No. I'm expecting to be engaged by plot, music, actors, location, talking, etc. Once upon the time, I watched supposedly great movie about Vietnam with great Chuck Norris and how he is great and Vietnamese bad. Then I ask myself, who invaded who? Vietnam invaded USA or USA invaded Vietnam? The answer was self-obvious. So great Chuck Norris suddenly not so great anymore. And so it goes.
I wonder who the real cannibals are.
So
Yeah.
at no point did he ever talk about
Wow.
anything that was in Cesonero, but
What a great mind. What I like about it is I mean, grasp of the English language aside, he
Mhm.
clearly uh, he clearly thinks of these. I mean, he's trying to grapple with the socio-political implications,
Oh yes.
except he's chosen the films of Joe D'Amato. Seems like a strange gateway.
Mm-hmm.
I bet he'd like those deturned films
He might
where they turned the Japanese exploitation films into art.
into political
Yeah.
track. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah. Always worth. I'll save a few more for our last episode, maybe of. But thanks again, Ferdman.
Yes, who invaded who? It's a valid question. Right. That brings us to the end of another, I think you'll all agree, quite stellar edition of the Tomato Files.
Mm-hmm.
One more round to go, lads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, only 7 films next time.
Oh,
Except
okay.
one of them is in 2 versions. We've got a softcore version and a hardcore version
I
of
see.
Kamasutra.
Okay.
And then we're done. We shall return to the sad, empty voids that our lives were prior to this project.
Oh, I might, though, I think try to watch the documentary as well, actually.
Well,
The
maybe we'll bundle that in with, we'll be doing the porn
Oh,
at
yes, that
some
might be a
point.
good time to do that. Yes.
And then, just in case we don't have anything to say about that.
Yeah,
Um,
because I do remember there being a lot of good stories in the 2 documentaries that Joe D'Amato totally uncut.
yes. Also, I mean, I don't know if he comes up in it at all, but I am curious if Joe D'Amato gets a mention in that Rocco Siffredi TV series,
Right.
Super Sexy or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if does anyone play Joe D'Amato?
Somebody cast as Joe. Yeah, that would be, yeah. Hmm.
I'd like to see that if that's the case, or if they just
Mhm.
gloss over, I don't know. But yeah, anyway,
Yep.
right,
Okay.
that's us done. Until, oh, for fuck's sake, he's doing it again. With apologies from me and Gav. You do look alarmingly like Donald.
I'm Irish.
You have resting Irish face.
Yes.
See you then.
Dankeschön.